and promote an understanding of it, that it's not a bunch of people that are just flying to the South Pacific for a champagne party. That business aviation is a lot of the trips that we used to do with this tech company, where what they were able to do in a week's time going around the world would have taken 3 weeks if they'd even been able to accomplish it. They'd gone commercially.
Hello and welcome to the Business Aviation Collective podcast. This is sponsored by LD Aviation, and today we get a chance to speak with Ann Widay. Ann Widay may be semi-retired at the moment. However, she's had a long and distinguished career all throughout different aspects of business aviation, including flight departments themselves, service provider, as a software vendor as well. So welcome, Ann, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Lindsay. I really appreciate being here and your time too.
Likewise. Great. And I'm so glad you took some time to speak with us because, like I said in the introduction, you have had a really long career here and you have a ton of knowledge in all sorts of sections. Like I was saying, Part 91, but you also did a lot to give back to our community, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the podcast. But how about we start off with, how did you even get into aviation?
By accident. And I think a lot of people stumble into it. And I was working at a large telecommunications company in San Diego in the travel defense area. And one of my responsibilities as the financial analyst was to audit, and I was auditing some costs and invoices for the company that was at that time managing the company aircraft, and noticed some potential irregularities and questioned those. And then also noticed there were some payments that were being duplicated. And again, like some irregularities, brought those to the attention of the CFO, who then decided he wanted to bring the aircraft in-house. And we were at a social function and he approached me and said, "Hey, you're married to a pilot, so you know a lot about aviation. I want you to bridge the gap and be kind of the connector when we bring this department in-house, and you've got the institutional knowledge of our company, and there'll be a director there, and you can help bring it all together and make it work." And I don't say no to the CFO, who still in contact with him. He's retired, actually started another business, but he's gone from that company, but he's an amazing, amazing person that I learned so much from. His name's no title for anybody that ever had a chance to know him. Just a brilliant, brilliant guy, and learned so much from him. But didn't want to say no to him, because when he sees things, there's a reason, and you got to believe it. And I was a little uncomfortable, so on the drive home, turned to my husband and said, "Okay, tell me everything you know about aviation." And he retired Navy pilot and a private pilot, but had not done Part 91 in a corporate environment, I should say. But so could tell me about planes and aircraft. And I was very lucky. The people that came in-house, Fred Gammon, Casey Pelletier, Chuck Reeves, and the flight crew, the maintenance people were phenomenal. I learned an enormous amount from them, and then met Joe D'Amato and several of the people through MBAA, and was just very lucky to have some great mentors. Darren Hall, I can't speak enough about him at Barber Jet Center. He's been called my mentor, but technically a mentor, but learned so much. And so I hope that I have through the years been able to share back, and hoping to communicate that for people to pay forward as much as you can.
That's awesome, right? I mean, that's really all, this industry is just all about that. People stepping in to help you, and then you stepping in to help other people.
Absolutely. And that the phrase, "that's not my job," I rarely hear that. And I think that because everybody, even though it may not be your job description, but if it's something that needs to be done, your job is to get the people in the planes, in the air, where they need to go safely.
That seems like, kind of going back to when you were talking to your CFO, that seems like a really big endeavor. Because I know there's other companies out there, even right now, they're maybe under a management company and they'd like to bring it in-house and do it on their own. Like, how long do you think it took for them to come off the management, I say certificate probably, and and bring it in-house?
We did it very quickly. It was within 2 months.
Wow.
In hindsight, that may have been, actually, no, it was a necessity. The things I found, that was a necessity. But there are other flight departments. I know several years ago, I helped Netflix when they started their flight department. And the person who was in charge there at the time helped him. He was someone I worked with in previous incarnation. And there's benefits to both. There's some operations where being on a certificate is, or it may be a managed certificate is 91, or maybe a portion 135, it may be mixed. Then you have to do analysis to see what's best for any given operation, because every operation is different. And when I left that telecommunications company and went to work for Collins Aerospace, I thought I knew a lot, but realized I just really started to learn. And because the years I was there, seeing all the different flight departments and the different types of operations, everything needs to be tailored to the given operation. And there's no one size fits all.
I think that's a really good point. Yeah, nobody operates exactly the same. Yeah, tailor it to that specific company and client.
And I am 100% though a data nerd, where I really think it's reporting and data are so important, both from finding out what you need to do and also to tell about what you're doing. And again, it's different for every operation. Some just want to know flight hours, where do we go? Others have how many passenger count, what hours what pilots are working, what hours, or flight attendants, cost issues, various things, our cost per flight hour. And just be ready if you get into this business that it's constant change and it will never stay the same, ever.
That is very true. And I think if you are starting up one, like maybe you're a listener, and maybe you're going to start up a new flight department or pull it off of management and bring it in-house, that data points that you're talking about, that's important to collect from the beginning. Like, look at your whole setup with the eyes of, how can I report on that? How can I show what we're doing? Because we do some setups here and there. And I think that's oftentimes the reporting piece is the last thing they think about. You're like, okay, well, I want to put in my passengers, fine, first name, last name. And I'm like, well, let's think of the other things you might want to report on them. Maybe you need age. Maybe you need, are the controlled employee if you're working on SIFL. So yeah, I think that data, it really is helpful if you can do that up front in the way beginning.
And if they're, control or not is huge, especially if there's going to be any people on the plane, and if you're a publicly held company. And like you said, is to one of the things where, it's just a passenger, we'll just add them in. But having we created a lot of templates that I then have shared to goodness knows how many people, for everything from crew profiles, passenger profiles, aircraft profiles, various things, that having these checklists, for aircraft acquisition and divestiture checklists, annual kind of, I hate to use the audit term, but frankly it is, there's having a kind of a stable of templates and checklists has been, I thought, very helpful. But they also, back to what you said, they have to be, everyone's customized, because there may be things that apply to one that don't to another. But the bigger the template, you can always delete stuff. So a really good start. And that's an excellent point, making sure that you have as much information both for data points and for operational purposes, so you don't get to, going somewhere and find out, oops, well, they need this piece and they don't have that. This person can't have this, that, and the other. I mean, not having, the more data you have on everything, and that can even go to the planes. How many engine cycles are we due for this? There's so many different things, and just getting as much data as you can and being able to report on it, and hopefully having it in a format so you're not trying to merge all these various types of data. But accuracy is most important. So.
Sure. Yep. Very true. So now you went from this Business Aviation Part 91 department and you moved over to Rockwell Collins. So what did you do there?
Sales for international clearance support, for software, for everything from flyer following to internet services to aircraft services. And it was so interesting. so very interesting because I had what I hope was a really good perspective, having been on the customer side, where I made a great effort to really listen to the customers and find out what their pain points were, what they really wanted, not just to go in and sell them what I think they want. And but by listening, you can find out, okay, do we have what they need? Can we customize what our services and solutions are to meet their needs and go with that? And I think it worked out really well. So I'm still in touch with, I've met so many great people. I'm still in touch with so many of them. And it's, it really does. That one conversation with the CFO changed. It was life changing. It sounds dramatic, but it was a positive life change because I met so many great people, and there's a core group of us that were at that tech company that still get together every couple of months. There's people kind of spread throughout the country, but we're still all in touch. And it's been a great thing professionally and personally. So, and I truly feel that about business aviation. And even though it's big, it's also very small. You have friends in, New York, Alabama, China, Japan, Brazil. And it's an amazing opportunity to really work with and meet and develop relationships with people globally.
I get to do these podcasts and I love it, but that exact point it just comes out almost every single time. This is a small community. We really have a lot of friends in this community. And if you need help, you just reach out. It's all about the networking and
it really
give and take. So very cool.
It is, absolutely. And there, again, lots of value professionally and personally. And hopefully being able to expand and promote business aviation and promote an understanding of it, that it's not a bunch of people that are just flying to the South Pacific for a champagne party. That business aviation is a lot of the trips that we used to do with this tech company, where what they were able to do in a week's time going around the world would have taken 3 weeks if they'd even been able to accomplish it if they had gone commercially. So, and they're often confidential conversations. They're business tools, and try to explain to people and showing the value of that. And sometimes it's quantifiable, sometimes it's not quantifiable, but if you can combine both, I think that's ideal from a reporting standpoint. So,
yep. Good point. Yeah. The more in our just like personal conversations with other people that we can promote business aviation as not being just, like you said, one giant party. We really are we're moving and changing and growing companies with these aircraft.
Well, and then there's also in addition to the obvious business benefit, there's also a can be, depending on the company, a charitable benefit. One of the most rewarding things I did was to use the company aircraft after Hurricane Katrina to evacuate people. And that was very humbling, very sobering, going in there, being one of the first, aircraft back into flooded airports. And it was sad, but there was also a lot of hope. And being able to help out where we could, both bring in what they call POWs, cell sites on wheels, being able to evacuate people, and seeing people that had lost everything, where they were holding their belongings in grocery bags, and them thanking us seemed it was, like I said, very, very humbling and
very cool. And what a great thing to be attached to a company that would allow or promote that, use that, because it's a very expensive asset, obviously, to use those aircraft. So wonderful. That's really cool.
Doing the right thing it's not always easy, but a lot of times it's not that hard.
Excellent. Okay, so you're doing Rockwell Collins, you're doing sales, you're kind of all over, you're selling all sorts of stuff. Then what is your life like after Rockwell? Where do you head?
I wanted to take some time off. Thought I wanted to be fully retired. Then realized I wasn't ready to be fully retired. One daughter on the East Coast, other one had left for college at the Ohio State. So wanted to do some travel. Did that. Of course, COVID impacted everything, but was still getting calls where it was, okay, everything from management to pilots saying, gosh, I'm on this plane, we're Part 91, and I just found out that we're flying to this overseas destination, and we're taking this person who just mentioned that he's got to write a check for this flight to, our principal. And is that okay? That sounds like a charter. And it's, of course, red sirens are going off everywhere as far as, because in fairness to the pilots, they know the, FARs, but when it comes to the business and technical side, they may not have an intimate knowledge of it. And so answering those questions, helping people do checklists, helping everything, basically whatever people asked about, they're undergoing an audit. What do they do? They're going to be buying and selling a plane for the first time. Do we have any suggestions? And so was doing a lot of, and still am, if somebody calls and asks a question, just doing consulting. It's answering those one-off questions where they may not need to have a full-time or even a part-time person, or they may not have someone with the expertise there, but to help them, A, get the answers they need, and B, show them and the people that work with or for them where they can find the answers. Because there's an enormous amount of resources that they may just not have known about. And even helping them within their company, where they may have a finance department or a security department or a tax and regulatory department where they don't know aviation. And what applies to a certain standard within any given business section and segment does not necessarily the same. And you, of course, need to, depending on what type of classification you're operating under, you've got a lot of rules that you need to follow for, FAA, IRS, SEC, everybody. And they're not always well received, but you still need to follow them.
Right.
I can tell you've had that experience where you're, and has that happened to you, where you've been the messenger that no one wants to hear what the news you're telling?
Yes. I think I find the civil part of it, that's probably where I see a lot of the mistakes that go in. People are thinking, well, these top 5 people are the only people are going to be controlled, but they're not really. Maybe you have to add in your directors. And, it's the interpretation of the rules that they see. You can read it and understand it in one way, but you really need somebody with experience to be able to help you interpret it correctly or interpret it according to what the government wants to see on their end. Oh, yeah.
And that's it. All it takes is one art. And, and just the fact that you haven't been caught yet doesn't make it okay. And just saying, fortunately, there have been times where I've heard, well, just don't tell them who's on the plane. Oh, okay. Let's talk liabilities. And
right.
And you're right. And I know the tax and regulatory seminars with NBA are absolutely invaluable. And I hope that anyone that has even one, potential civil or one non-business person on any flight can go to that, because it's a small investment to be able to keep up with that. And those seminars, those conferences, was so good. And they're great. So valuable.
And I'll do a shameless plug as well for LD Aviations, because I think MBAA has awesome conferences as well, but they're only, I want to say, twice a year. We have just produced a CIFL class, and I know this is again a shameless plug, but there is a CIFL class online that we have now. In case anybody wants to learn all about CIFL, you can do it at your own pace. Anyway, that's all I'll say on my little.
I'll go watch it too, because there's things you'll get out of it. I guarantee, watching your seminar online, I guarantee there'll be something that people get out of that they may not have gotten out of a regional meeting or out of MBAA. So, it's a great resource, and it's super important that you investigate those resources. I'm glad you have that. That's excellent.
Yeah, I really think like the checklist that you were talking about. I think there's a lot of these resources that are out there, and people have created them. And I mean, you obviously spent a long time creating those, and they're helpful to other departments, other flight departments all over the U.S. So, yeah, I'm trying to collect stuff like.
Well, I'll send you some, or let me know if you're missing anything, or if there's any gaps, or maybe I'll just do a data dump for you.
There you go. That'd be awesome. All right.
I'd love to pursue.
Okay, perfect. Well, that kind of brings me to the next part, is all of the giving back that you've done over the years. And I know we had talked before. We want to discuss, let's start with scholarships. I know you have a good bit of experience, and you tell me more about the scholarships and how important those are.
Well, I also need to first clarify that time and energy I've given pales in comparison to what, many others have. I mean, you've got the Kelly Rittenhouses and other people that have been the S&D committee chair, people that are, chairs of IOC, various that have given so much time and continue to. And I think it's important that we all give in some capacity, and be that attending a regional group and just helping out, or being a member group, or volunteering to assist at any of the given conferences. That said, I did have the great honor of being able to serve on the S&D committee for several years and be the lead on the scholarship committee, which was amazing because the scholarships started out, many, many years ago, where it started out, it's been in 1997 was when Schedulers and Dispatchers founded their scholarship. And it has grown and grown and grown. And now everything is under NBAA Charities, the scholarship program. And they give out for $100,000 annually in cash and tuition awards. And then there are a number of other scholarship type awards that they provide. And as a scheduler, dispatcher, of course, you focus on all go into the S&D scholarships and awards. But there's also the Coffin and DeDecker Business Aviation Management. There's memorial scholarships. There are flight attendant committee scholarships. There's IOC scholarships. Go to their webpage because there's so many different opportunities, and look at them and apply. There's schedulers and dispatchers. Even though you have your main job function, you can always learn about other job functions. And I think it's changed significantly in the last 10 to 15 years, where previously there were somewhat limited promotions for schedulers and dispatchers, but that's changed. And now you have people like Tom Stewart with Jake Morgan and Melanie Carney with Visa, Wendy Gavigan with Citibank, and others that are directors and VPs. And that's how come because they've gotten their CAM, which is very important. And they learned about all these different areas and have experience. I know Tom's a private pilot, and getting experience in all these areas, don't limit yourself, because by limiting yourself, you're not just limiting yourself, but you're limiting, the benefit to others too. And all these different people with all these different perspectives. And I learned pretty quickly coming into aviation that the scheduler and dispatcher function, in my opinion, is the brain center of any given operation, where they're the ones that get the first phone calls when something happens. It may be a good thing, maybe I don't know, things done, it may be an operational thing, but then it's pulling in all the parts from maintenance, from crew, from flight attendants, from passengers, operations, all these various things, business deals that may happen. And the schedules have to think in all these different dimensions, what's currently happening, what's happening in the future, what used to happen before, and how are we prepared for all this, and being able to pivot at any given point. But the more you know, and scholarships can really help out with that. I was recently awarded a scholarship, and it was really interesting to be awarded a scholarship by Kim Disney, who years ago I gave a scholarship to. And cool. I know in calling people when I was giving out scholarships, there were some people that at that time maybe had lost a job or didn't think they had the training, wanted to get their dispatcher license or something. And being able to do that was a direct result of these scholarships. There were people that cried, and it was very emotional. And it's been fun watching to see where these people have gone on, things they'd gone on to do. Well, a couple of them have been chairs of S&D committee. So in my case, I had applied for a service elements scholarship, leadership seminar scholarship, and I'm excited to be able to go to that later this year. But there's so many opportunities, and there's also the Women in Aviation International, and look around and ask around. Ask people just go to conferences and ask questions, or go to websites and look around. Call Lindsay and ask Lindsay.
There you go. Yeah, definitely. Do it. Yeah, do it. I think that brings what you're saying really brings it 360. You said that one conversation with your CFO positively changed your life because it got you into business aviation. I think these scholarships, I think you've seen some of, like you said, some of these people are now directors, Wendy and Tom and Kelly. They probably had a moment similar to that, and it could be that it was a scholarship. Just that one scholarship that maybe put them in a leadership class, helped them learn those skills to be able to get those positions. And yeah, you never know. Do it. Even like you were saying too, maybe it doesn't pertain specifically to S&D. Maybe there's a flight attendant, maintenance, whatever. Go in there and learn it. It's certainly never going to hurt to learn something more.
Jessie Doros, who was with this tech company that was at, she started out as a CSR and then went to schedule dispatcher and now is flying. And there's numerous examples of people that there are hybrids of everything, because it's just when you think you've seen it all, you haven't, because there's opportunity everywhere. And there may be somebody that's looking for a scheduler, dispatcher, flight attendant, the pilot, flight attendant, scheduler, maintenance person. I mean,
yeah.
And right. Again, the pilots, there have been times where the pilots that I've worked with, because they're the ones in the plane, if something goes wrong with maintenance, depending on the level, that they're the ones to diagnose it, and being able to just even talk with somebody by knowledge of all that, by knowing the pieces, parts of the plane, and very technical things like, okay, this isn't working, let's rebuild the plane. There's all that knowledge. And yes, there's a lot of pilot training, there's maintenance training, but there can be a lot of crossover. And there's so many opportunities for it all to come together. Emergency training, I think, is a big thing that I'd say the last 10 plus years has become a focus of having an emergency response plan. And often the scheduler and dispatchers, I think, are the ones that can see all the various layers that are needed for that. And it's very important, in my opinion, to have the emergency response plan in place and drill it.
And drill it. Yes. And drill it. And I find too, have it available to you remotely, especially when a lot of us are not even in the office anymore. I mean, I've only gotten a very few phone calls, and thankfully they were only small emergencies, but they don't happen when I'm sitting at my desk in front of my computer where I can open up my ERP binder or something like that. It happens when I'm driving down the highway, and now how do you get to that? So I guess I would say any emergency response, it just needs to be accessible to you wherever and whenever.
Well, that needs to be part of the drill, because that was our drill. We know the week it was going to happen. We didn't know when. And I was, exactly your point, I was driving home and got a phone call from someone that was pretending to be our flight attendant and sounded eerily like her and said, the plane's gone down in such and such city, I can't see the pilot, and was in this panic, and then the phone went dead. And luckily I knew the planes were nowhere near there, so I knew it was the drill, but it was, okay, we got to go. It's go time. And like you said, you can't really open up a folder when you're in your car, and, because that's when it's going to happen. You hope things like that never happen, or it could be something similar like, Executive A forgot he brought this passport, and he thought it had a Chinese visa, but it's actually a Taiwanese visa. He can get into China with a Taiwanese visa, right? No. And, it's 2:15 in the morning, and they're on approach into Beijing. So, there's different levels of emergencies, but just because it hasn't happened, it will happen.
Right.
Don't ever say it's not going to happen.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. There's some weird stuff that you just couldn't even make up that happens along the way.
Well, that's one thing I do wish there would be we had a forum or someplace where we could get together, you wouldn't believe this, and put it all into a book somewhere and have it for at S&D or at NBAA or at base. And so you get to share because you hear about all these things. It'd be fun to be able to write them all down from globally.
That'd be awesome.
Yes, there's a fleet of chickens running around on the ramp. What if we did it? So
that'd be awesome. All right, there's another business venture for you, and then that can be your next project. Collecting all the stories and put it in a big binder. Oh, that'd be awesome.
That would be hilarious. Actually, that would be really fun.
Yeah, very cool. So, looking back some more on your S&D times and while you were with the committee, what other items did you find interesting or what else did you learn while you were with them?
Gosh, so much learning about different operations. I mean, going in, I always bring a notebook to every day, even to, conferences walking around, because there's always going to be people you can talk to, somebody you're having coffee with, or at a committee meeting or whatever, learning from people, because again, our operation is so different. And there's so many opportunities, and it's fun to meet different people from different walks of life, hear how their operations run, share with them if they maybe have a pain point. We have pain points to share, come up with solutions. And we worked at that time, it was Joe D'Amato, who was fantastic, working with Joe and Mike Nichols, who absolutely won, and Steve Brown, just some of the finest people. And I know there's Tyler and new people that are there that are equally phenomenal. And Elena Hall, name dropping. So nice. There's great, so many great people and it's always such a fascinating group of individuals. And you will have lifelong friendships. And I just can't speak highly enough of NBAA and what they provide from a business perspective and frankly a social perspective too. So during lockdown, I had several recurring calls with groups of friends from business aviation where we did Zoom or FaceTime calls every week just to kind of touch base and talk about everything from, how many times have you walked your dog to, what are your plans for reopening, and expect the unexpected and
get involved.
And get involved, because again, it's just get involved. And if you have a resource, share it. What you have spoken to your guide on the CIFL, and having that resource, the resources you're providing, Lindsay, are invaluable. So
and I'm always, I've just been super passionate and excited to be able to, I just feel like there ought to be one spot where we can all go to find those items, and we can all also feel comfortable posting our things, like your checklist. I'm sure there's a bunch of other people that have, maybe there's even a CIFL calculator that somebody produced in an Excel file because they needed it.
NBAA has one that they update.
That's right.
NBA has their CIFL calculator. That I have found is the best because they update it within a couple days of each time the rates are published by the hiring. And it's very customizable because, as you pointed out, the difference between a control and non-control employee, how many people are on the plane, what's, the gross weight of the plane, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, there's so many variables. And that I have found to be an excellent, consistently robust and accurate. But that said, I always qualify when we're giving estimates to people for CIFL. There's always that qualification. You got to also always educate people to say, okay, this is what it's estimated. Use the estimated term, because otherwise, that very likely will be the exact amount. But if for any reason the miles flown, let's say they have last minute, they're going somewhere else, or somehow the mileage slightly changes, you don't want to have someone coming back to you and say, but you told me this. So the rule apply. It's just that calculations may deviate slightly depending on any given operation. They end up going into a different airport or something. But the policies are still there. And I mean, like you had said, where the positive is in your, and what you've got online is that these are the policies. Policies. There's no loophole. Yeah. And everybody that thinks they're finding a loophole, there's no loophole.
There isn't. You're right. It just is you just got to pay it.
You can't just not list the person on a manifest. There's a million reasons you need to have a manifest.
Very true. Very true. I'm thankful to see over the years that we're seeing less of that also. I remember in the beginning, 20 some years ago when we started, that hey, we're just not putting them on the manifest was actually relatively common. And now I see most people are really frowning on that. Like you said, for liability reasons, just knowing who's on the airplane, and for monetary financial reasons.
Some of it's optics too, where I think there's because we live in a social media world where the optics of having, let's say a plane goes to Paris during the Tour de France and one employee gets off it, followed by his family and 10 friends, and that could look really bad. But if you could say, oh no, although the odds of that happening are very, very, very slim, because I truly believe that business operations utilized for business, but that's optics, where they may not see that business employee going into Paris had a huge meeting with a giant company that was business critical. All they see are the people that jumped on that plane. But you could say, oh no, this person had business need, plane was going there. These people got on, and this is what's being allocated to them and reported to them, both to the IRS and the SEC, because I know the SEC has been a huge hot button for the last 15 years. But that became the reportable, and especially in for public companies in the 10Qs and 10Ks, and that more optics. And I think by and large, the vast majority, if not all, companies are very transparent about that, because they don't want to have that day. They don't want to appear to be doing something wrong, because they're not. They're trying to do the right thing. They really want to do the right thing.
They do. Yeah. And they want to do the right thing and use this as a tool. Use the aircraft and the flight department as a tool. And boy, you really just have so much knowledge in this industry, and it's super cool to talk to you. And I hope other people reach out to you. In fact, if other people did want to reach out to you, where would they find you? What's the best way to find you?
LinkedIn is great.
Okay.
My email that I never get rid of is awiday@cox.net. I don't always check email super fast, as you know, because I've been doing a lot of traveling, and and that was hard, separating from the constantly checking email and phone. That seriously took me about a year and a half to break that habit.
Really, a year and a half?
Yeah, because that was, even if you're on vacation, and I know there's that work-life balance, and it's super important that dispatchers do take their time, that they have that work-life balance, but it's so hard because you want everything to be done right, and you want to be the people behind the curtain. You want to be Oz, where okay, the principals and the company, be it from a corporate flight operation or a charter operation or whatever, they don't need to. They can have the plans for a business reason. They want to go get done what they need to do. They don't need to know any of the chaos behind the scenes. So try to make sure that chaos stays behind the scenes is a big part of our jobs. But it was a little bit hard to disconnect, but I kind of done that. Unless, of course, there's a project working on.
Yeah, but that's great though. It's good. It's good to hear that, eventually that's in store for all of us. I mean, I check my emails a lot, although I'm really trying to not do it while I'm on vacation as much, because you're right, that work-life balance is very important. But yeah, a year and a half. Yep. If you've done it all your life that way. Yeah.
Well, it was close to 20 years of it. And because even prior to getting into business aviation, there was a travel and expense side. And, I got a phone call when I was fairly early on in working at this corporation in their travel department that one of our employees had bit a sacred monkey in Thailand. And it was 3-something in the morning, and they needed $10,000 to post bail for this employee because he bit a monkey. And I said, you mean he got bit by a monkey? And they said, no, he bit a monkey. And apparently it was a sacred monkey that he had bit. And they wanted $10,000 to make sure this monkey was not going to get some illness. And well, yeah, you just know.
That's one for the books.
Well, yeah, but you know what? It could happen.
Yeah, it could. I couldn't have a dream that one up. But yes,
Yeah, and if anybody listening does have stories, email them to me because maybe I'll start collecting things and we'll write a book.
I think that would be so funny. I think that would be so fun. Yeah. All right. Well, definitely. If anybody listening, send Anne your story so we can add it to the book.
Collecting them. So
good. Sounds great. Well, Anne, thank you again so much for your time. Really good talking to you, and can't wait to see you maybe in another one of the shows coming up. You think maybe?
Yeah, very glad. Hopefully, that would be great. I know Vegas is coming up, and we've got lots of other things coming up. And thank you very much for all you do promoting the industry and supporting it and all your great resources. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. All right. We'll talk again then soon, Anne. Thanks again.
Thanks.
You too. Thank you for listening. Please stay tuned for more episodes and check out our website for up-and-coming podcasts. This has been a production of the Business Aviation Collective, sponsored by LD Aviation.